Of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is 7:37. I'd ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
to flag,
the
United States of America,
to the republic for
which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Alderman Toledo, I think you're not muted yet.
Gotcha.
Okay. Agenda item 1.2. I'd ask Clerk Tamer to call the roll.
Leader. Alderman Leader.
Go ahead, Norm. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was muted.
Thank you.
There you go.
Dunn.
Here.
Bram.
Here.
Holumsky. Toledo.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Honquist.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
12 present, 0 absent, 2 vacancies.
All present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. We are in session. On to agenda item 2. Receive communication. At this time, is there anybody who has any written communications that wishes to submit?
Mayor, it's really hard to hear you.
Yes.
Jackie, if you could maybe mute.
Testing 1, 2.
That's a little better.
Any better? Anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, a little better?
Yeah, a lot better.
We'll go with it. Thank you. Okay, so agenda item 2, receipt of written communications from the public. I see nobody here in council chambers. Assistant City Manager Kopp, is there anybody over there in our kind of bullpen over there that has anything they want to submit?
No written communication.
Okay, did we get any that we posted? Received anything from public prior to the meeting for posting? Okay. On to public forum. This is an opportunity for anybody to address the council on any item they so choose. We ask that you state your name for the record. Address is optional. We ask out of respect for work that we have to get done here this evening, and out of respect for others who may want to speak, you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you go over 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up. I know during this current pandemic, we have a certain way we're doing public forum, and so that we avoid as many glitches as possible, we ask for people to register no later than 5 o'clock. Understanding that we did have somebody register, so I am going to, and I see no one in the council chambers, and I'm going to ask Mr. Kopp, is there anybody in the bullpen physically present that wants to speak before we go to the one person on the telephone?
There is nobody physically here for public comment.
Okay, and then I know that we had one person who was going to arrange to phone in. Is that person available?
He is.
Okay, great. Do we have that name? I'm going to surmise it's a he, since you said he is. And I'm going to ask, sir, for you to state and spell your name for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Constantino, did you hear that?
Yes, I did have that, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. My name is Constantino, Costantino, and my last name is pronounced as Noe, but spelled is N as in Nancy, O as in Oscar, E as an elephant. My complaint, chamber, is about this water bill that you guys hijacked. I'm sorry. Last meeting, last year, you guys did introduce with not much notice from American Water that you guys going to introduce us with our Elmhurst area, with this unincorporated area. So I put together here 5 bills, and I want to explain to you. I'm owner on 3N220 North Howard Avenue, and I used to be paid around estimating around $90 a month since 2015. Since last year, my bill raised extremely high without explanation. Correctly explanation. I like to have a correctly explanation why they raised my bill, and I've been fighting for this. So, last words. February 2020. My bill was $129. I spent 83 gallons. Okay. They overcharged me $106 portion. Now in March, I spent 64 gallons, and they charged me over $100. Okay. April, I spent 58 gallons, and they overcharged me $100. May, I spent 52 gallons, and they charged me $98. Now, this month, because I'm in a budget, I spent 50 gallons the date of the charges, and they charged me $99. So, and these overcharge explanations, and this bill pays through charges. They're talking about American Water bill, explain charges in this section when applicable are separated from other service-related charges to provide visibility into the portion of your bill is being remitted to other entities. Payment received for these charges does not remain with American Water while we may bill and collect for them. The payments received are passed along to other companies and agencies. Please, Chamber, I'm a resident at how you guys calling this area, country club or whatever. I used to be paid $90, and you threw this overcharges bill from this entity, the city of Elmhurst, treat them whatever water it is. I already pay for water. I already pay for sewer. So why I have to pay extra money for these people? Also, I going around the neighbor and I see the river sewage draining is going. One side is going to I don't know the direction, probably east, and the other direction is going towards to the place they recycling the water or whatever. I don't understand. They don't explain in this bill why they charge me $100. I like to know if every resident, every business, every health club, every people that have a pool and Elmhurst, how much they pay. I'm just one guy living in Elmhurst, one single person in this house. and
Okay.
it's very extremely high rate what I pay.
Okay, hey, Mr. Noah, this is, you're over your 3 minutes. I'd
I'm going to,
ask you to wrap up your
okay,
comments,
okay.
please.
So I hope so you guys understand because I'm going to call state representatives. I'm going to for
Okay.
DuPage County, and I gotta find out why they charge me this money. I like to know. I wanna be open and clear. Every resident in Elmhurst, how much they pay. I like to see that.
Okay,
I like to see that. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you. Mr. Kopp, anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, that concludes public forum for this evening. On to agenda item 4, announcements. Any announcements from the digital dais? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. At this time, is there any item on the consent agenda any alderman wishes to have removed to vote no or provide comment? I see Alderman Mulliner raising his hand. Alderman Mulliner, what number?
5.9.
Alderman Bram?
512 and 515.
5.9, 5.12, 5.15. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 5.9, 5.12, and 5.15. Motion by Alderman Honquist, second by Alderman Levin. Clerk Tamer.
Leader. Alderman Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumsky. Toledo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 vacancies.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Consent agenda minus items 5.9, 5.12, and 5.15 is approved. On to agenda item 5.9. This is a report out of Public Affairs. I would ask Clerk Tamer to read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs.
Oh,
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council approve the business assistance recommendations outlined herein in regards to the 2020-2021 fees and schedule for liquor license renewals. The committee recommends the city attorney be authorized to prepare the necessary ordinances for City Council approval. Signed, Danny Palumsky, Chair, Scott Levin, Vice Chair, and Ward 2, Alderman Norman, Leader.
okay, to put this before council, I will ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Palumsky, second by Alderman Levin. Alderman Palumsky, your report.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this over to you so we can.
Hard to hear.
Okay. Is that better? Okay, well, I was trying to do it on my computer. Okay, so I will turn this back to the mayor so we can hear from Alderman Mulliner. But I first want to introduce what this agenda item is. It is a report from the Public Affairs and Safety Committee. It is recommending some actions to be taken although these are technically actions that fall underneath the mayor's executive authority. So while we discuss them and we have them up tonight for approval, I would like to say that technically this is something that the mayor signs off on. So ultimately we will hear from him. But generally what this is a report taking into consideration a number of options from our staff, finding ways to help our liquor license holders, so primarily bars or restaurants that serve alcohol. And it recommends a number of actions which have been taken by executive authority. Was that Thursday? Oh, not on this one. Okay, thank you. All right, to be taken. So there are several recommendations that the committee has put on this report, and those include freezing the annual fees for liquor licenses, and those are on average about $4,000. And so yearly we'll see an increase in those. So the committee is first recommending a freeze in that rate. The second recommendation is to change the payment schedule for liquor license holders, where typically a liquor license holder will pay a one-time lump sum. This recommends allowing those holders to spread it out over 6 different payments. The third recommendation is to continue with the extension of carry-out or to-go sales. So we've seen that since the beginning of the stay-at-home orders, that some restaurants that didn't typically have carry-out licensing or didn't typically offer that they were provided that. And the fourth recommendation is to offer a credit. So because these entities, these businesses were closed, some liquor license holders will be eligible for this credit. So this would pertain to businesses where they typically have dine-in services, those who have an active 2019-2020 liquor license, and for those renewing their licenses on or before June 30th. And this applies to about 52 different liquor license holders, and that's a negative budget impact of about $17,081. That was decided. There were 3 options, one of no credit, one of 1 month credit, and one of 2 months credit. So our committee came to the consensus of what seemed to be the moderate choice. So I turn it back to the mayor to hear this report was pulled.
Okay, I'm going to add a little context, then I'll turn it over to Alderman Mulliner. So as it relates to my executive authority and the authority granted to me by the council, as I said at the time when the executive authority was granted to me, if and when possible, I would try to push. I would try to have decisions that normally were made by full council and through our normal process. I would try to have them made in that manner. Tonight you have a couple of hybrids on here. In this one report that we're talking about right now, most of what's being discussed, there's enough time for this report to go through council and be codified before the end of June, which is when new liquor licenses are due by the folks who have them, liquor license fees. There is something in here about the extension of carry-out to-go sales, and that is kind of an overlap, if you will, of an executive authority that I've already done. So this report's a bit of a hybrid. So Alderman Plumpsky was correct on that it kind of, at one point, it supports one of my executive orders. But then on the flip side, so like, for example, the freezing annual fees, payment schedule, stuff like that, that is something that staff, all of us, have really been kicking around. And I said, well, I support the idea. If and when possible, I want this stuff to go through committee. So that's what has happened here. This is going through committee, and we do have enough time to put together any ordinance that would relate to this report, if it's approved, and get it done before the end of June, which is when the liquor licenses are due. So it's a bit of a hybrid, but I just wanted to add that point of clarification. And then the other thing I think Alderman Plumsky was referring to is report 5.10, which was just approved. That was also a support, if you will, of a executive order that I made that allowed restaurants to open according to the governor's Phase 3 plan. So just those points of clarification as it relates to this report and the other report. I am going to turn it over to Alderman Mulliner, who pulled this report. Alderman Mulliner.
Yes. First off, I want to thank the committee. I think they did a tremendous job on this particular report. However, I'm going to ask if I can make a motion to amend this report to go from the 1 month to a 2 month credit, with the concept of the fact that the restaurants have been closed for the most part, or unable to do most of their business for almost 3 months at this point, and the longer we can give them to, or the best, if you will, credit we can give them, I think is the best interest, in the best interest of keeping the businesses operational. So my motion is that I would like to take paragraph 3 and the line where it says 1 month, change that to 2 months. I'd like to change the approximate impact to the budget from $17,081 to $34,162. And there's one other spot where it mentions 1 month, and I'd like to switch that to 2 months. And that's the motion I'd like to make.
Okay, before I ask for a second, I'm going to clarify. Basically, as it relates to this report and everything on the report, there is a motion to amend under the issuance of credit, which is on page 2. The last paragraph before the recommendation, third line down mentions 1 month. Motion to amend would change that to 2 months. There's a budget impact estimate of $17,081. If the credit is increased to 2 months, that budget impact would be estimated at $34,162. And then the next following sentence says the committee recommends issuance of a 1 month. That would also be part of this amendment, changing it to 2 months. Hopefully that motion to amend by Alderman Mulliner is clear. I will entertain, do I have a second for the motion?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Alderman Mike Brennan has seconded the motion. So in effect, it's doubling the credit currently listed in the report as 1 month to 2 months. Motion to amend is before us. Discussion. Anybody want to add? Raise your hand if so. Alderman Toledo. Oh yeah, Alderman Toledo, there you go.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the motion. Being on the Finance Committee, I'm inclined to support.
Alderman Toledo, I'm going to
Yes.
ask you to hold for a second.
Can you not hear me?
Yeah, barely.
Let's see. Unmuted.
Upper left-hand corner should be an audio pull down.
Is that any better?
A little better, yeah.
I can
Raise
go
it as high as
higher.
it'll go.
Is that better?
Yeah, it is. All
Okay.
right, please continue.
Okay, thank you. So what I was saying is that as the finance chair and recognizing our budget shortfalls that we have, I'm inclined to still support the committee's original recommendation. I appreciate that they looked at 3 options and picked a bit of a middle of the road option. I also appreciate the Alderman Mulliner and Alderman Brennan's motion of trying to give more help and assistance to the businesses, but I would like to also balance that with any help that we give to that particular group of liquor license holders limits any help that we might want to consider giving to other people at the next meeting or to our residents in the form of our tax levy, and trying to help keep that as low as it can be this year when we get to that stage. So I am advocating for supporting the committee's original recommendation of the middle of the road, which is some assistance, but also balancing that with other needs that we may have in the future and the implications for our taxes on our residents. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Levin, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. This is not one where it's, you can say that one is completely right and the other is wrong. It's not like a stop sign issue or anything like that. But in this case, the committee, I think, went down the line of what Alderman Toledo just said, is that this is just one piece of it. We've offered some other credits and assistance, and the city will have its own financial woes to deal with. So we felt that was a good compromise. It wasn't that we just considered those three positions. We talked about what kind of credit generally was appropriate, and 1 month was what we felt was fair. So don't feel strongly, but I'm going to stick with our committee's recommendation.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to first vote on the motion to amend. Motion to amend report to expand the credit from 1 month to 2 month. Clerk Tamer.
Leader.
Call my name.
Yes, Alderman Leader.
Sorry.
Norm.
Nick.
Nay.
Okay.
No.
Alderman Bram?
No.
Thank you. Palumski?
No.
Toledo?
No.
Park?
No.
Levin?
No.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Honquist?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Deuter?
No.
4 ayes, 8 nays, 2 vacancies.
4 ayes, 8 nays. Motion to amend fails. On to the original motion before us, which is approval of the report as is. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Tamer to call the vote.
Leader?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Bram?
Aye.
Palumski?
Aye.
Toledo?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Levin?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Honquist?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 vacancies.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 5.9 is approved. On to agenda 5.12. This is an ordinance. I would ask Clerk Tamer to read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending ordinance number ZO-05-2018 and amending ordinance number ZO-24-2018 to authorize the extension of time for the conditional use permit for the Elmhurst Extended Care Facility for the property commonly known as 200 East Lake Street and 193-197 East Fremont, Elmhurst, Illinois, parentheses, Elmhurst Extended Care Facility.
To put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Toledo. Discussion. I believe Alderman Bram pulled this. I'm going to throw it to him first. Alderman Bram, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Not much to say compared to 2 weeks ago. I don't think this applicant has earned the right for a second extension. They're nowhere near substantially complete. They applied for the permits or received the permits, I think, right under the deadline or the day of the deadline. I cannot grant a second extension for this applicant.
Okay, anyone else? Alderman Toledo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to clarify that a number of us had slightly incorrect information last time when we voted on this topic. It is indeed just the second extension request. not the 3rd. I will continue to stand behind my original vote, even given that change in information, namely because my primary reason for not supporting it was I don't think that that's financially feasible and that they should have made more progress by this time before asking for another extension. Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk Tamer.
Leader?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Graham?
No.
Palumski?
No.
Choludo?
No.
Park?
No.
Levin?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Honquist?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
8 ayes, 4 nays, 2 vacancies.
8 ayes, 4 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 5.12 is approved. On to agenda item 5.15. This is an ordinance. I would ask Clerk Tamer to read the ordinance.
An ordinance extending temporary executive powers pursuant to Section 3.16 of Elmhurst Municipal Code and pursuant to 65 ILCS 5/11-1-6.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Levin. Discussion. Alderman Mulliner.
Same report ordinance that's been pulled before. My opinion is that we need to continue to allow you to have the executive authority that's necessary in order to keep the city moving forward during this pandemic, which has been demonstrated this past week by your ability to move quickly and nimbly as it relates to the opening of restaurants. So I feel that it's important for this to be approved.
Alderman Braham, you pulled this ordinance.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 weeks ago, I provided some examples that I do not think were necessary and should have followed our normal process, being committee and council consensus or majority. The examples that were just spoken of by Alderman Mulliner, I believe, well, I shouldn't even say I believe, I know could have followed the normal process. I appreciate the mayor utilizing the executive powers granted 2 weeks ago. But again, I have not seen, other than the first granting of executive powers, a need for this to continue. Section 1 of the ordinance makes comments of two standards that should be followed. The need for immediate emergency action, which must occur before the next regular meeting of the city council. It's not needed. I communicated with the city manager about utilizing the public streets and or sidewalks for this nature back in early May. I want to say it was May 5th, which was plenty of time for the committee process to move forward, discuss, approve a report, and put it on the council agenda, and therefore pass it with a report and an ordinance. So executive order would not have been needed. Even if that wasn't the case and it took a little bit longer, which it did not, just as an example of the discussions that were had in committee this past Monday. But even if that was the case, we have the option or the opportunity to suspend the rules under circumstances that we deem necessary. So that could have been done as well to pass it immediately. I don't see examples of moving forward with this any longer. We are currently in phase 3 out of the governor's plan, which is the recovery phase. I haven't seen any examples that dictate an emergency need tied to COVID as of late. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for the vote.
Leader?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Graham?
No.
Palumski,
Aye.
Toledo,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Levin,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Honquist,
Aye.
Brennan,
Aye.
Mulliner,
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
11 ayes, 1 nay, 2 vacancies.
11 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 5.15 is approved. On to reports and recommendations. Mayor Morley, that's me. Couple things to report. Very pleased and happy that the Memorial Day convoy went off without a hitch. In fact, it went off better than I think a lot of us anticipated. Council is aware it was our 102nd celebration of, or I'm sorry, memorialization, really, honoring of Memorial Day, and we did not want to break our 102-year streak. So even though Chamber and Veterans Commission canceled, which was the right thing to do, we quickly pulled together a group, and within 3 weeks, we pulled together a Memorial Day convoy, basically bringing the parade to you. We drew a map that went through the entire town. We tried to draw it in such a manner that the convoy was no less than a quarter mile from anybody's house. So if it wasn't specifically on your route, you could still walk there. Anecdotally, I was able to go to 4 different parts of the route after the kickoff. And it's my belief that actually more people attended this convoy than a normal parade. That's how many people I saw out there. It was absolutely fantastic. I have heard from the veterans, John Scudder, Bill Shanklin, actually numerous people who were ecstatic with the support that Elmhurst showed, not only for Memorial Day, but for the veterans who were in it. I want to thank Alderman Mulliner and Alderman Brennan, single them out specifically for their hard work on this. There's so many people, I don't want to forget anybody. John Quigley and Ralph Pacciano, who normally structure the entire parade. We kind of picked their brain to get this thing going along with staff. Steve Mandat, Bill Anishevitz, Mike Kopp, Cassandra Schreff. Unbelievable team effort, and it really went very well. I would encourage you either go to our Facebook page, our website, or our YouTube account. You can see not only that, Joe and Dennis, the guys who run the video for us, pulled it together and posted it the day of by 5 o'clock. So not only we run the event, they pulled together all the speeches, and it's fantastic. It's on there right now. So I think that's a success, and I want to say thank you to everybody. Second, City Hall, we opened today for the first time in 9 weeks. 9 weeks. City Hall was open today. We set it up with a lot of social distancing. If you come into City Hall, you'll see some stanchions and barriers, and we've got a lot of shields, but very happy that through this entire pandemic, we have not stopped any of our services, and we're happy to reopen City Hall today. There has been some challenging issues, I think all is aware, in the United States, quite frankly, and Elmhurst certainly is part of that and has been affected. There have been some protests downtown Chicago. Over the last couple of days, we have increased the number of police officers on patrol. We've assisted some of our fellow suburbs. For the most part, Elmhurst has has been unimpacted by this, although we did have a robbery of one of our local mobile phone stores. That would be, I would say, directly correlated to this. But we encourage residents to stay safe, be vigilant, and call if you see something. In addition, we've closed accepting applications for, we have, as council is aware, we have 2 aldermanic seats that are open, 1st Ward and 4th Ward. We have applications in for both, and I will be setting up interviews this week. Hope to get that done inside of about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on folks' availability and how many I can get together in that amount of time. A lot of that is subject to the schedules of the applicants. Also happy to announce that on last Friday, we officially moved to phase 3 for the government's plan, for the governor's plan. The governor's plan originally in phase 3 did not include the opening of restaurants. Happy to say that that he did change his mind and alter that. I was also happy to declare in absentia, and I want to thank Alderman Levin for handling the task for me. There's been a gentleman, a resident in town, Brian Costello, who's a member of the Shannon Drovers, the Bagpipers, and he has been walking out his backyard and playing for anybody who will listen. At sunset, he backs up to the Prairie Path, and he's been doing it. I think he ended up doing 74 or 75 days in a row, which is a whole lot. So I know that he and I had talked at the Memorial Day taping, and he was trying to figure out a way to wrap it up. So I thought, what better way to do it than last Friday, when we kind of opened up for summer, but also opened up a little more. And it was my pleasure to declare it, proclaim it Brian Costello Day. I know that Brian and some of his fellow, is it Rovers or Drovers? Rovers with an R? I'm going to go with R, with Rovers. Any Irishmen there? Rovers? Brian and some of his fellow Rovers roved all over Elmhurst. They started in downtown city center and roved around a little bit. And they ended up down on Spring Road, where Alderman Levin stepped in for me and presented a proclamation to Mr. Costello. And I thought it was great. Alderman Levin said, "Hey, do you want to say a few words?" And he kind of looked at him and said, "How about another song?" So I thought it was a great way to handle it. Also, now that our restaurants are open to some extent, al fresco dining, if you will, I would certainly encourage all residents to get out and patronize these restaurants while you can, and if and when you can. We have been working on a daily basis since the governor, I believe it was the 20th of last month, the governor announced his relaxing of this part of his plan that was originally going to be in phase 4. I would encourage everybody to go out and support their restaurants. We at the city have been working with them on a daily basis. Each restaurant is in a geographically different location, geographically unique location. Our goal is to get them as much seating as possible and still comply with the governor's plan. There has been, so you'll notice that some of the actions that we've taken, they don't have to have ropes up or stanchions or barricades between them and the sidewalk. That allows them to expand their footprint a little bit and adhere to social distancing. We also allow them to expand up and down the block if they can work out a handshake deal with their neighbors and the neighbor says it's okay. If not, and it's a retailer, when they close at 5 o'clock, we allow those restaurants to expand. So we are working with the restaurants very closely to maximize their ability. We've also allowed them to expand into a little bit onto certain areas, into parking spaces. One thing that I wanted to address that I've heard a little bit is some of our towns have talked about closing out streets and allowing for restaurants to take advantage of that. And for the most part, we haven't had a call for that here in Elmhurst for 2 reasons. First of all, a lot of the suburbs that are doing that are really creating public dining areas. They're not extensions of the restaurant. So basically what it is it's people coming in for carryout, then walking over to a picnic table. And that really doesn't help the restaurants who are trying to bring their employees back. So the servers aren't required for that type of setup. In addition, restaurants also told us that they didn't want to necessarily walk further down the block to deliver. It would be kind of a tough on their staff to do so. So we have been working with restaurants on the best way to expand. In addition, we don't just have streets that only have restaurants. A lot of our restaurants and retailers are still thriving and depending on curbside pickup and temporary parking. So there's a whole host of reasons why we're not necessarily closing down streets. While it sounds like a good idea, if you the devil's in the details, and a lot of our restaurants have indicated that the way that we're doing things is working for them. So that's That's really it for me. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. With everything going on, likewise, I would like to say thank you to all the staff and all the efforts that they've been making. Not only is it what the mayor just talked about as far as getting the city center, Spring Road, York Villette ready for business, but it's been everything in between. We had a storm that staff helped clean up with, and over the weekend, the police were incredibly busy, especially last night and tonight. And I really want to compliment the way that Chief Ruth deployed everybody to keep Elmhurst safe. I think that's what helped to keep our incidents to a minimum. So much appreciated, Elmhurst staff. So along those lines, we have had a number of events pop up where folks in town want to hold a vigil or a march or something like that. We are trying to work with all these individuals to accomplish what they'd like to. In fact, we worked with a couple organizers today. They wanted to plan an event for tomorrow, and starting in downtown area and then walking over to Wilder Park, working with the Park District, and thank you to Executive Director Jim Rogers. We were able to work with that group to move it over to Wilder Park in whole and also postpone it a week. We're hoping that will allow some of the tensions in other areas to calm down and have a peaceful event over there. So if you hear of anything else or you have any questions, by all means, please contact me and let me know. And then the last thing is related to the storm. I know we had a couple glitches in picking up some damage that folks might have had in their basements from that storm. I think we got it all this Saturday, that Republic did. And we apologize for any glitches that might have happened to the community. We did our best to make sure we could get all that cleaned up. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other reports from the dais? Alderman Dunn. Floor is yours. Nope, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, how about that? Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right, I just want to give a quick update on the most recent Fly Quiet meeting that occurred last Tuesday via Zoom. We had a pretty productive meeting where we were informed by the CDA that the interim Fly Quiet, the IFQ that was going on, has been temporarily suspended due to construction on the one of the runways that impact us. So they are try that. Okay. So we're back to the traditional Fly Quiet that's been around for 20 years or so until September. So we'll be in that rotation until then. The CDA presented a rather interesting proposal on a rotation program for departures and for landings, and it was a very balanced approach. It consisted of a north week, then a south week, and then a diagonal week. The diagonal weeks are the ones that impact us. Then it was rotating. It was a 12-week rotation where 2 of the weeks out of the 12 we were impacted by landings, and then 2 of the weeks we were impacted by departures. So a third of the weeks we had impact of this proposed rotation. So I think it's a very good starting point for the discussion for Elmhurst, and I'd welcome any input into that. That proposal is on the ONCC website. You can take a look at it and see what thoughts you might have, and if there's any concerns or input that you might have. But overall, I was pretty pleased to see that as the first draft proposal for some type of rotation. So I think that puts us in a pretty good light. That's it.
Anyone else? Alderman Brand.
Thank you. Just one thing that Alderman Dunn didn't mention, and I want to ask if there's any information on. I'm not in agreement with that being actually in a good light for Elmhurst in regards to the amount of impact, because Elmhurst, same neighborhoods will be impacted over and over again versus the east-west. There's a distribution of what neighborhoods are impacted. But the question that I haven't heard covered was, I heard discussions of requesting, I don't know if it was CDA or whom, but requesting of Elmhurst of our proposal of what an ideal situation would be for Fly Quiet of the future. Is that accurate, and what are the details? I have not been asked for any feedback, being the main ward of being impacted by this diagonal runway. So if that is accurate, could additional details please be provided?
City Manager or Alderman Dunn?
We're happy to share the details that the CDA shared with us, Alderman Bram, and all the aldermen, of course, for any input. I don't recall being specifically asked to provide a plan that would be different from what they did. We've been talking through Fly Quiet over many iterations, and not just the use of the runways, but also the vector headings to really try to mix it up among the flight paths.
Okay, anyone else? Any other reports? All right, I'm going to add one thing I didn't have an opportunity to during my report. It's with regard to the executive authority that the council has granted me. First of all, I appreciate your trust in that. I also think it's important for council to understand that if you did not extend my executive authority, which is certainly your right to do so, any executive order I've made to date expires the following day. So anything that I've made, for example, Families First Corona Relief Act that we had to respond to with some of our first responders, the plan that we had to come up with, the governor only released his, good example would be the governor didn't tell us that he was going to allow restaurants to open until May 20th. He did not provide details of his plan until May 23rd. So we really didn't have much time to react. We had about 5 days, so I was happy to do whatever I could to allow our restaurants to open. So I don't take it lightly. I think it's important. I know there's stuff pending that the governor's doing right now that we don't know how it could impact not only Elmhurst, but also its businesses. And I think we need to be prepared to do that. But as I said, when council originally granted me this authority, if and when possible, we will take decisions and move them through the normal process. A great example would be one of the reports that came out of Alderman Polumsky's committee with regard to liquor licenses and credits, et cetera. That's a perfect example where that's not due until the end of June. Staff originally came to me with that idea and asked what I thought, and the first thing we did is sit down on the look at the calendar to see if that was allowed in our process from a timing standpoint, and it was, and we're doing that. We'll continue to evaluate decisions that have to be made. If I believe that they can run through council in the normal course of time, I will do that. But I stand behind the executive orders that I've issued to date. They directly impact residents of Elmhurst. They directly impact the businesses of Elmhurst. And I support what I've done to date, and I appreciate the council's confidence. Thank you. All right. Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Dunn, second by Alderman Mulliner. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Clerk Tamer.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Levin,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Honquist,
Aye.
Brennan,
Aye.
Mulliner,
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 vacancies.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.